What if a competitor to YouTube succeeded? Today on the What If Brigade, I am going to be talking about a new video hosting service called Utreon. And I won't be doing a very in-depth review. I'll get to why on that later. But first, I want to talk about the fabled first mover advantage. Millions of years ago, when I was taking a college marketing course, we had a little tiny book. It wasn't a textbook. It was like 60 pages long or something, just more of a pamphlet really, that talked about the ins and outs of first mover advantage. And even way back then, the book was critical of this concept. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile. He popularized it. And so there's no real such thing as first mover advantage. It's more the first popularizer advantage. Skype came long before Zoom, but most people I know use Zoom or another competitor now. Now the book was clear. It is a big advantage to popularize a product first. It was a big advantage for Ford to roll all those cars off the assembly line at affordable prices. It was a big advantage for Kleenex that people call their competitors' products their brand name. That's good. That's good. And YouTube wasn't the first video hosting service. It was the first popular. I don't even know if it was the first popular video hosting service, but globally, it was the first popular video hosting service. And I want to talk a little bit about how competitors keep running up against this and failing, and a counterexample that was successful. And the big thing that happens every couple years or so, a rival video hosting service will try to start the next YouTube. And a lot of times this fails. And what I see most often with your full 30s or your Utreons is what they do is they take some of the most popular content creators from YouTube, as many as they can get, often in a niche category. So full 30 was about guns. Utreon has more categories, but Utreon wants to get their Ian from Forgotten Weapons. They want to get Shadow Diversity to talk about swords. They want the big channels to come in, and then they want to try to get viewers, and then they want to kind of spin it up and running as a competitor. And what usually happens is that video hosting is very expensive, and eventually what happens is it costs too much, and they're not getting enough viewers, and so the model collapses. Either the technology can't handle it, like it physically just can't do it, and the website's down all the time, or financially the company goes kaput. People have a lot of legitimate criticisms about YouTube. You can check out the Fairtube Union. You can look at a lot of these criticisms of YouTube. And I also want to point out that a lot of things on YouTube, even though YouTube is the most popular video hosting service in the world, a lot of things on it are terrible. The comment section is just awful. There's no community. You might have a comment that gets 3,000 likes, and you're not going to get any subscribers because that's not how YouTube works. There's tons of people on YouTube that have no content whatsoever. So if they subscribe to you, you subscribing back to them just seems creepy and weird. It's like, oh, hey, if you ever make a video, Bob, I will see it. You will not. So, I don't know why I'm subscribing to an account with 0 videos. There's an entire lack of community and ecosystem there that is even worse than like Facebook or even like Twitter. Yes, Twitter is probably harsher in the comments section, but people have followers, people have little niche communities. So when you try to make the next YouTube, invariably, especially since it's very expensive, you probably need you've got to do something better than them. If you have a comment section that's YouTube-esque, then that's not really going to work. You really have to offer something bigger and better, and not just in the mechanics of the site. I also think in the content. If you're trying to be the next YouTube, and your strategy is to take creators that are already successful on YouTube and bring them to your new channel, there's a few problems with that. First of all, the people who are successful on YouTube do not need your new product, and you're never really going to get enough of them to where you have the breadth and quality of a YouTube before you run out of money. And so when I joined Utreon, they asked if I had a YouTube channel, and I said yes, and they asked if I'd like to port it, and they took a look at it, and they sent me an email, and they're like, hey, we're looking for established content creators right now. We're kind of in beta. We can't really handle getting you in there. And that's fair. And though, if Utreon were to ever take off, it's just going to be another YouTube, because if they're just letting in the most popular creators and ramping up that way, by the time they get to new and original content creators, there will already be an established ecosystem, and nobody will, there's not going to be a different version of Shadiversity because he's just ported all of his followers over to Utreon. And that, in terms of from a consumer standpoint, that's really bad. You do not, if Utreon is just if I'm just a viewer and Utreon is just gonna be the next YouTube, except that I can't even put my few personal videos on it until a later date to be determined, that's not gonna build a lot. I did, and I also took a look at the comments. Shadiversity has many followers. I went on one of his videos. There wasn't any comments. There wasn't that many views either. So you're gonna really struggle to bring YouTube communities to a new site like Utreon. And here I want to talk about a competitor that has been successful, and I want everyone to get their giggles out. All right, put on our big boy and girl hats for a second. The competitor that has been successful is called OnlyFans, and it has not safe for work content. And the reason it is successful is because of something my marketing book talked about. If you want to take out an established monopoly, you really need to be first in a new category. And because that kind of content was always frowned upon and demonetized on YouTube, there wasn't that community. It existed on other platforms, that's true, but there was no attempt to port the YouTube community over to OnlyFans. Okay, a little bit, but essentially the biggest creators on OnlyFans weren't the biggest creators on YouTube. You're talking about a new ecosystem, and that if you're going to do kind of a clone of, OnlyFans is basically a clone of Patreon. But if you're going to do a clone of an existing monopoly, you've got to have some sort of fresh angle on it. And it can't just be like Full 30 where you're like, okay, YouTube, but only for guns. Because YouTube is, like I said, YouTube is huge. And, it has to be a big category, a much bigger category than just, firearms and those kinds of things. There are a lot of firearm videos on YouTube, but it's still, you need to get, I don't only watch firearm videos on YouTube. I watch recipes. I watch history, interesting history stuff. I watch stuff about swords. You really have to expand your horizons and find something different. But yeah, I hope Utreon succeeds, and I really doubt that they will, because I feel like to do that, they either need to be establishing a new community or solve some sort of technical problem that YouTube has. For example, if you came up with a good way to karma the comment system and you made it so that there was a community, then people might come over. But as far as I can see, that's the only way to defeat an entrenched monopoly like YouTube. Is you've got to do something different, either in a different community or with a different technology. You've got to take a new angle. And if it looks a lot and acts a lot like YouTube, only with some glitches because you're in beta and you don't let a lot of content creators on it because you can't afford the bandwidth, I just don't see how that's ultimately going to be successful. What about you? What do you think it will take for a new competitor for YouTube to arise? This has been the What If Brigade. Have a great day.